quickly to phase 3 update, Dean and Katja.
Thanks, Chair. Yes, so you'll remember we submitted some large outline planning applications in April last year for Northstowe phase 3A to the south of the town and 3B to the north of the town, comprising 5,000 homes in total with 3 primary schools and a local centre. We've been considering feedback and comments received since the application was submitted, and we've been working on updates and clarifications. These will be available to view very shortly via both northstowe.com and the council's website. I'm going to hand over to Katja from Tybbalds soon to introduce the documents we've been working on and talk a bit about the Oakington Edge. That was seen as a particularly sensitive part of Northstowe phase 3A. Then she'll hand over to Janice, who will speak very quickly about a couple of other issues that are important to local people, transport and drainage. And then obviously we can pick up questions after, if that's okay. So I'm going to hand over to Katja.
Okay, thank you, Dean. Is that come up, that presentation?
Yes, it has.
Okay, great. I will also kind of rattle through this because the information I'm going to show is also, or will be very shortly on the website, so you can look at it in a bit more detail. So first of all, I mean, you will remember that the outline application contained quite a lot of documents. These are the documents that we have updated in line with comments and changes, and to address some of the kind of comments we had from the community as well as the stakeholders. And came to district council as well. So these documents are really for 3A and 3B. I mean, they're pretty kind of similar. So we've updated most of them for 3A and 3B. There are 2 documents I want to kind of draw your attention to. One is the Oakington Transport Technical Note, which provides a little bit more information on the Southern Access Road East, and also the Oakington Green Edge, Oakington Green Separation Note, which talks a little bit more about the area between the new houses and the existing houses in Oakington. We've also put together a kind of residents' response frequently asked question document, which picks up on the comments we've received from you and the questions you have asked. And we aim to kind of explain how we have taken those on board and addressed those and what our considerations were. So I think particularly kind of for the Oakington community, those 3 documents are particularly relevant. Otherwise, as before, you know, whatever you're most interested in, the design and access statement provides an overview and other technical document. Yeah, read them at your own leisure. And as Dean said, they will be shortly on the council website as well as northstowe.com. Come on. Okay, just very briefly, and these pages are also in that Oakington note that I mentioned. So this is an aerial view that illustrates the Oakington Edge and then also the kind of extent of the development. So to kind of explain and illustrate a little bit better how this gap and how wide that gap is and the existing landscape that is actually retained between the new kind of development and the existing kind of settlement of Oakington. Again, I will rattle through it because we don't have that much time. We realized also that actually, because the site was a kind of secure airfield, that many of you won't have had the opportunity to look at the site also from the inside. And these images illustrate how the kind of the tree buffer in a way looks from the inside of the site. And these particular ones are taken from kind of in parallel to Long Stanton Road. So that is the tree buffer that runs parallel to Long Stanton Road between the new development and the kind of existing road. this is the existing airfield road. And we've taken these kind of images and to illustrate that the tree buffer that exists between those, the existing and the new development is actually, it's 15 to 17 meters higher, those trees. It's really dense. And the maximum height of the buildings as set out in our application comes to the dotted line, which is kind of 11 meters, which is approximately the kind of maximum a 3-story building. So we have included these in that documentation to explain how high those buildings would be and how they relate to the existing trees. This again is a kind of similar view taken in the kind of at the northern end of Oakington Station Road. Again, at that point, we've got 15 to 17 meter high trees and the maximum height of buildings is 7 meters, so 2 stories height. So again, you will see they're kind of much lower than the existing tree kind of tops. And lastly, I want to show you a section. Again, it is in the documentation, so you can kind of scrutinize it in more detail as I'm kind of rushing through it. It is again the kind of the northern edge of Oakington, and it illustrates, so on this side we have illustrated the existing houses in Oakington off Station Road, and then the kind of long back gardens, then the existing tree buffer, which is approximately 35 meters deep in width. And then we have a restriction that is set out in our parameter plans that no new development should be closer than a minimum of 10 meters to those existing trees. So development would then sit behind it with 2-story buildings. So all in that location between the existing house and the new one are about, let me do math, 70, 90, 100 and a bit meters in that particular location. Another section we have taken is kind of a little bit further to the kind of to the east, no, sorry, west, that is. Again, with the existing Oakington residential development illustrated in the kind of brownish color at the bottom here. And then in that case, the tree buffer is kind of around 55 meters wide, and the additional 10-meter landscape zone that is kind of on the inside of that tree buffer on the kind of North Store development side. So we have included this material together with a bit more explanation in that Oakington separation note, and hopefully it explains a little bit more of what that edge would be like, and how wide the edge is and what the landscape treatment would be. But that's all I want to say, and I now hand over to Janice.
Thank you, Katja. Just wanted to highlight a couple of the documents that we're submitting that might be of particular interest. So in each of the applications, we have revised transport assessments, the sort of detailed technical work around transport that's come out of ongoing discussions with the County Council on Highways England. So those cover the sort of improvements that are being proposed to go along with the development, and that discussion has moved on. And we've also presented, as Katja said, a short note around the Southern Access Road East and transport issues in Oakington. And really that takes you through the sort of background of Southern Access Road East, the design principles around it, particularly the fact that it is only an indicative design at present as part of an outline, and what we've taken into account in order to come up with the design and how that might change going forwards. And I think it's important to highlight that we've shown how much traffic is forecast on there, and traffic using the Southern Access Road East would be traffic from Northstowe going in particular directions towards Cottenham and into northwest Cambridge in particular. So it is only about 20 or 30% of Northstowe traffic. And then we've explained how we've assumed traffic will then use the local roads and the local access roads down into Cambridge. And really the assessment that we've done is very much a worst case. So we've assumed that around 60% of traffic is using the Oakington direction, which is why we get you know, high traffic increases in that area. That's not because that's what we anticipate would happen, but we didn't want to underplay those impacts. We've then looked at what improvements are needed at the Oakington Crossroads, and we've also done more work on the new road junction heading towards Impington to the south of that, and putting forward a proposal to improve that junction, which will benefit all users, including cyclists and walkers, with a good signalised crossing there. So that note sets out something really to respond to the concerns that were expressed from the parish, and we hope that that will you know, help guide you towards where the main impacts things are that are then picked up in the transport assessment. The other area just to mention then is on drainage, and we know how important an issue it is to people in Oakington. So we have been in further discussions with the stakeholders, and we have updated the flood risk and drainage strategy. And really that's in order to demonstrate how we're going to mitigate surface water drainage, and that water that's draining towards Oakington, how we're actually going to create a situation that's better than the current runoff from the site. And we've also explained how that will be managed to make sure that going forwards there's a long-term management proposal around that. So just to emphasise that the principles we've taken give a much higher approach than policy requires. It takes account of a very low discharge rate with sustainable drainage systems within the site, and it makes an allowance for climate change. There's also attenuation, which means that if there's a flooding situation in the local area, the water can be held back for up to 48 hours in order to limit how much water's entering. So we take you through that in that document in a bit more detail, just to answer some of those questions again that came out in the concerns from the consultation. So that's what I was going to just cover today, just highlight those facts, and they will be available in those documents as they're provided very shortly.
That's great, thank you very much.